God, 10 seconds. We're on their 6. Michael Johnson turned around, asked the bench something. And now Green makes him line up on the right in the slot. We have 3 receivers. Tennessee playing what amounts to a 4-4 fake. And there's a touchdown! Touchdown! My God, a touchdown! We threw it to Haynes. We just stumped it with 5 seconds left. My God almighty, did you see what he did? David Green just straightened up, and we snuck the fullback over. Haynes is keeping the ball. Haynes has come running all the way across to the bench. We just dumped it over. It's 26-24. We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face. We dumped it over. David Green brought us flying down the field.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Dogs Down South. It is a Monday night, fresh off of its Labor Day. I know you saw my screen right there. I forgot to change Clemson and Georgia for the Aflac kickoff game. But we're going to talk about Georgia and Clemson tonight. So a recap show on it will be what will be going on as well. So might as well have it on there. I'm going to bring on my good guest friend, Richman. How are you, Richman?
Good. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs, man, on this fabulous Labor Day. I don't know about fabulous because I know up there you might have had some weather. I think we had some weather down here. There's weather everywhere in South Georgia. So, but it is Labor Day. So most of us got a little time off, hopefully. But we are going to do a lot tonight on the recap show. We're live also on TikTok. First time tonight live on TikTok. So Dogs Down South on TikTok. If you haven't done so as well, make sure you're following on Facebook, Dogs Down South on Facebook, X, Twitter, Dogs Down South, as well as YouTube, Dogs Down South. Make sure you go like and follow, and then Apple Podcasts 24 hours after this for episode 26. We're going to talk a lot tonight. We're going to recap Clemson and Georgia from Saturday. We're going to talk a little bit about Tennessee Tech, not much, but we're going to talk a little bit about Tennessee Tech. Also going to look at some games around the SEC from this past weekend, maybe pull some power rankings up, answer some mailbag questions, and we're going to pick this week's games. We're missing a couple people tonight. Obviously, Fish is not with us tonight, but he is doing some family things tonight, so missing you, Fish, but maybe he might hop on and make some picks. Who knows? Coming to you in 1080 tonight, doubling the resolution for you on YouTube, so hopefully we look better. We need all the resolution we can get, at least speaking for myself. But Rich, man, let's hop right in, man. Let's talk about, let's recap a little Clemson, Georgia from Saturday. Obviously, some of the big questions we have is a lot of people want to know, too. Everybody saw the game. We saw our first glimpses of Georgia, saw us on offense, obviously defense, special teams. But let's hop in right there on the offense. Let's just talk really quick. What stood out to you on offense for Georgia versus Clemson this past Saturday?
Man, the speed, team speed, and the diversity of weapons that we've got.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think overall team speed was on display. I think offensive-wise, obviously we got to see some elements that we didn't know if we would see or not. I think we talked about Nate Frazier, obviously, and we did see a lot of Nate Frazier. I think Nate Frazier was a big reason in the second half while we were able to open up that score and open up the pass a little bit. I know I went live and talked about it from the first half, talked about how the inability to get the run going was really hurting us in the passing game. And obviously ETN did sit the game. We talked about where he might sit, he might not sit. He did sit that game. We don't know if it was discipline. We don't know. I mean, I think it was. But we talked about that inability, and we looked at Branson. I think we have some mailbag questions on Branson, so I'll save that. Greg Dominy, welcome, man. Greg says he thought the difference maker was the O-line. I thought the O-line was really, really impressive as well. But team speed is one. For me, I personally think that what was really impressive by the offense was just I think team speed was one, but the depth. I think we saw depth right off the bat. We saw offensive line rotation. Greg mentioned that right there. We rotated the entire game. We were fresh the entire game, which meant a lot because we're going to talk about it in a minute, but we've mentioned this multiple times. This Clemson defensive line was a really, really good defensive line. This was a really, really good defense. And so offensive line play in that rotation, the depth, we saw at least 8, 10 wide receivers. We saw receivers that we didn't even think were going to play in the game score touchdowns. I mean, London Humphreys, geez, we didn't even expect to see him possibly, right? But the wide receiver depth was huge for Georgia, I thought, as well. And then I thought, obviously, you looked at a secondary and a linebacker core that was rotating as well. You saw a lot of, obviously, I heard that Aguero was missing because of an Achilles thing. He could have gone, but there was no reason in trying it. But that meant that, Dan Jackson, KJ, you actually saw Malachi at the star position a lot that night instead of the safety. That just goes to show how much Kirby and them are, excited about KJ Bolden and are trusting KJ Bolden. But I think depth for me on the offense. What do you think about defense, Rich, man? I mean, what stood out to you from our defense? I know you look at the scoreboard and you could probably say, well, there was a shutout in areas of touchdowns pitched, but what stood out the most?
I think we're going to see Malachi in the star all season because I think he was in on. If he didn't make the play, he was right there around the ball 75% of the time. And when you have him as a safety, and he goes one way, and the other team wants to run away from him, they run away all night long. But with him, the star, he's going to be all over the field.
Yeah,
and it showed.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I'm not going to ignore you tonight, but TikTok fans, if you want to hop in, ask any questions you want to ask, I will get in there as much as possible. We're going to stay on topic tonight. Greg, you as well. Thanks for joining. If you got anything you want to throw in, questions you want to throw in for our users tonight, let us know. Special teams, we hit this right before we hopped on, Rich, man. It was non-existent. Between Thorson and just the ball never really touching a player besides it being fair caught. I think that was a huge thing on special teams. Do you think?
Well, I think they said last year that we had no returns on punts last year. So if he continues that throughout the season, that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
To take the whole area and just blot it out where it's not gonna be able to harm you.
Yeah, we saw special teams as an area that even in the kicking game. Look at Peyton Wood. He hit a 55 yarder.
55, I think, and then his personal best, right? Could have
gone like 60, 62 maybe. Indoors, but I think it was more concerned about the accuracy rather than the foot. It was hugging that line, but I think special teams as a whole was a huge game changer. Obviously it gave us our lead 6-0 in the first half. Georgia struggled to obviously, find a lot of rhythm first half. I think the big reason that we've said this time and time again, and I've heard multiple shows that I've listened to the past couple of days is, Clemson totally came out in something opposite of what they are. Their DNA is to play man and to be very aggressive. And to, they like to blitz a lot. They like to play man
pressure.
I didn't see a lot of man first half. I saw a ton of zone. I agree with you. I saw a lot of cover 3. And when we did take some chances, it was still a very soft cover 2 behind. Tell me what you thought about that. Clemson's a man, a man press blitz.
Like you said before, for them to come out and basically camp out and cover 3, and they've always been a man team. They run man against everybody. I think that Dabo knew they were going to lose, and he was trying to control the game. It's like he almost went into a prevent from the get-go.
Yeah,
because he didn't want the score to be lopsided, even though it kind of ended up being a little bit lopsided. But it's definitely something. It's definitely something to think about when somebody does something like that. And I don't know exactly what they were thinking, but it's odd to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if you look at the first half, I went live obviously on our Facebook channels and I talked about a little bit about the first half and the inability to start the run up, but it wasn't because I don't think Georgia came out flat. I think Georgia came out surprised. I think we tried to. I don't
I
know if
mean,
you mentioned
obviously, I know Beck said that they were expecting man and cover. I mean, man and pressure, and I'm sure that's all they practice because that's all Clemson's ever done. So, I was surprised it took as long to react. Like I said earlier, I mean, to beat that cover three, you need a flood of zone, and we started doing that in the second half, just destroyed them. But I don't know. We didn't seem to do that at all in the first half. We camped out on the perimeters and we probed the interior line, and we throw we threw I don't know how many swing passes and stand up passes. And and the other thing I mentioned before is like I was really impressed with Clemson's tackling. I mean, they didn't give us they made contact and you went down.
Yeah.
We didn't get it was tough. It was like they're a tough defense. Very tough.
Yeah, I agree. Clemson's going to. I think Clemson's going to be in the. I mean, they got to get some things. They got to get some things right on offense, but I don't think the offense was that bad. I think the defense was just that good. Georgia looked good on defense. I mean, we constantly had something nagging. Michael went out. I think I was going to play a little bit of Kirby's presser today, but it looks like Michael is just dealing with a little bit of an ankle sprain. Looks like Aguero could go if he needed to next week. They might hold him out.
But on the defense, I'll tell you on the defense, Stackhouse and Miller, I was worried about the interior line. Those guys were tough, resilient, stayed in there all game. I mean, they played really tough. To be able to, our linebackers ran and hit. I think, was it Jay? I can't remember which one it was.
Jalen Walker.
Was it Jalen Walker? I think had 6 tackles and 3 were solos, and I think maybe
he had 1 or 2 sacks, right?
1.5 sacks, and I think the other 3 of his tackles were for a loss. Yeah. I mean, our linebackers play looked really good.
Yeah, I agree. I think Clemson's going to be good in the ACC. I saw the ACC, and we're obviously in about 45 minutes going to see some more of the ACC tonight. Florida State's taking on Boston College. That's going to be the we see Bill O'Brien make his debut with Boston College. Obviously, we get FSU. Is FSU hungry? By the way, is this in Tallahassee? Do you know?
I think it's no. I'm not sure.
I'll look at my homework because it wasn't on the picks. I was going to make sure we picked it before the game started, but I know that
I doubt they would go to Europe and then to Ireland and then come back and go to Boston. So it probably is at home.
Yeah, and they probably need it to be at home. To be honest with you, I think it would be probably one of the worst starts for Florida State in a long, long time if they were to drop 2 teams that are probably picked at the beginning of the year to finish towards the middle or end of the pack in the ACC.
Right.
But I will be honest with you, the ACC as a whole has not been very impressive all around. And they have a lot of injuries already in the ACC. You look at North Carolina, their starting quarterback's probably out for the year, depending on that hip. You look at Clemson, and you look at the inability to do anything on offense. But I think Clemson's defense is going to keep them in a lot of games this year. I was very impressed. One of the big things you talked about was the D line. And this may interest our TikTok users, but I follow a couple of these guys on TikTok, Naz Stackhouse, Michael, and they had these volunteer workouts over the summer that they were 4 a.m.s, and I would see these guys getting up, and we're talking in August, June, where other guys are possibly just resting R&R, maybe spending time with their family. They got stuff on their TikTok where they're showing up at 4 a.m. to the indoor, and they're doing he joked, man, because they're starting off with yoga in the morning and doing water yoga and things of this nature. But I think this defensive line, I would love to see them get healthy. I know we're piecing it together, and we saw a really good. If that was a piece together showing against Clemson, I could only imagine what it could look like healthy. I loved what Brinson did. I loved what Christian Miller looked good. I thought
he did.
Obviously when Mikel was there, he was just heating up before he went out. So I agree, man. I was impressed. I was impressed with the look as well. And I think we mentioned this. The linebacker play was impressive. We were able to line up Jalen Walker in so many areas to cause so much just chaos. He
He's
caused
havoc.
chaos.
Yeah,
Havoc.
he's a destroyer.
I agree. Havoc. So I think all in all, though, when you look, Richmond, at our total kind of philosophy of what happened, I think when you look at from top to bottom, I think slow start, but I think, you talked about it too. Everybody started out slow.
Everett got burned a couple of times, but it seemed like he was in good position, even though he got burned. You think that was just, you think that was
I think that was jitters. I think it's first game jitters. I think also, you've been playing on, and I get granted they play on the indoor turf all year, but like it's a different feel in that arena, that arena, man. The Mercedes-Benz is big. They haven't played in anything like that. I mean, a lot of those guys are probably having PTSD from that building because that's the last game they lost last year was in that building.
Right.
So just a little bit of a kind of get the jitters out the first two quarters. And I think the third quarter, man, was a different team. You texted me and you said tale of two quarters. I mean, this quarter and that quarter were like Jekyll and Hyde. And so, as we close the door on Clemson, I think the biggest thing that we can take from that game is Georgia played a quality opponent. I think the ACC is represented by Clemson this year. I've heard what they've said about Dabo and the portal. I think I think Dabo alluded a little bit in his his pregame conference when he was on the horn with some of the game day crew, and he said, we're going to go in the portal and we're going to get what we need, but we're not going to go in the portal to upgrade. So that was something different from Dabo. He had not mentioned anything about that. So I think Dabo's going to, you're going to see him slowly come around. He's not dumb by any means. I like Dabo. I think he's a great coach. I think he's a great character coach. But I mean, when you look at Dabo as a whole for that game, you could tell that not going in the portal didn't pay off in depth in some talent areas, young receivers, great defense, but young receivers. And, some people even said, I don't know about Klubnik, man. I didn't get a chance to see his arm, but you could obviously see the second half.
He hit some good passes, but he was inconsistent. And I think that's the gripe with him. He's been inconsistent his whole career. So I think that they're going to probably see some improvement in their offensive line because that was a big area of concern for them. And because they gashed us a little bit running the ball. I mean, it seemed like occasionally we think, okay, we're third down, we're fixing to get out, and that they rip off 6 yards and first down, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. I also think that I think we were a little bit more. We talked about Cole Klubnik, and we talked about how his legs may beat us. His legs didn't beat us at all. And I think that was a lot of what Georgia was looking at in the first half. And so I think some of those runs, I think how we geared towards the run was a little different. That's why we weren't really concerned about Maffa and the other running back getting a lot of breakout yards. But I think we were real concerned about, hey, when he fakes that ball, he has the speed to get around the corner and to bust you pretty bad. So I think that's what Georgia was really looking at a lot in the run game.
I think so too.
So I think you could look at it in a ton of different ways. But quality opponent, I mean, we all know we went through the SEC and there wasn't too many teams that decided to play quality opponents this past Saturday and Friday and Thursday.
I mean, it was almost like a scrimmage games with your scout teams. Yeah. Unfortunately,
and more to come this week. I mean, there's a lot of scrimmages on a lot of people's dockets this week.
I'm not going to elaborate, but those fans out there that think that they are going to win a natty because they beat somebody by 60 points.
Yeah.
Those teams are.
Yeah.
They're probably not as good as Alabama scout team.
Yeah, I agree. So as we close the books on Clemson and Dabo, Clemson has a little bit of hopefully a rejuvenation game for this week. But we move on to Tennessee Tech. Kirby talked about Tennessee Tech. Not a lot to say about Tennessee Tech. I didn't really go in depth a lot about this week. This is a really quick turnaround as well. I didn't go a lot into Tennessee Tech. I know they played Middle Tennessee State this past weekend. Some of the things that caught my eye were obviously not a lot of rushing yards. Their number one running back, his name is Jalen Mitchell. He rushed for about 52 yards. But what did catch my eye was Jordan Potts, the quarterback for Tennessee Tech, was 27 for 38 for 256 yards. The 14 different wide receiver targets were used this past Saturday. They made a big comeback against Middle Tennessee State. They definitely probably could have Middle Tennessee State could have shut the doors on them, but it didn't happen. Linebacker Toby Bolton had 5 tackles. He's kind of their standout on defense. There's a couple of names to look for on Saturday. We're going to pick the game and talk about the game a little later on, but obviously, I think this is a week that, as Kirby would say, you get healthy this week. You get some game tape stuff that you look at from Clemson and try to get some more of those things right this week in Tennessee Tech. I don't know if you see ETN this week. I will put it to you this way. I don't know if you really even care if you see ETN this week. But it might be good just to see that he's, if you see him, then all right, the deed is done. I guess that's what I'm saying. But if you don't, then I think you do see him against Kentucky. I just don't know if you see him against Tennessee Tech. Anything that blaringly stand out to you? Have you read anything about Tennessee Tech this week? Or are you kind of pretty much with me on this one?
Dude, I'm like, wait and see.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be a scrimmage.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think
it'll be with this quarterback sounds real interesting. Hitting 14 receivers, I think it's going to be a good workout for our secondary.
I agree. I totally agree.
Maybe we get a few sacks.
I totally agree. It could get ugly though, because if you're thoroughly relying on the pass the entire day with already a tough go at it on defense. I mean, they gave up 32 points to Middle Tennessee State, and I don't know if Tennessee State's putting that up on a lot of people this year. But all in all, I mean, this is a game where I was going to play the game. It's a home game. Georgia will be our new press box will be on display, so that'll be kind of cool. It'll be the first time you can purchase an alcoholic beverage. I don't know about the first. Am I wrong? I think it is the first time you can purchase an alcoholic beverage in Sanford Stadium. So that'll be interesting. I think it's a 2-beer minimum, so that'll be kind of cool. But yeah, definitely a home game.
I was there.
What's that?
It wasn't even a 2-beer minimum when I was there, when we were carrying them in our coats.
There you go. It was more like what could the maximum possibly be? Probably is how many you could fit in the coat.
It's like, how much could you hide?
There you go. How much could you hide? Oh man, a couple TikTok people here. Thomas here. Yeah, man, go Dogs, Thomas. I agree. Said the offense looked really good on Saturday. Defense looked really good. Wonder what will look like against Tennessee Tech. I think it will look the same. If anything, we might just not tip our hand much anymore. We might really solidify the run game, solidify a little bit of the pass game, and you'll see. Hopefully, you'll be seeing Gunnar Stockton a lot. Maybe even Ryan Puglisi on Saturday. So that's the hope as we get healthy, because we go on the road against Kentucky the following week. So yeah, other news around the SEC. I'm just going to pick a couple teams out of these games. We talked about there was a lot of scrimmages going on in the SEC, but obviously, Richman, you watched LSU last night against the USC Trojans. I just hate
Brian Kelly said it, man. He's just not a good coach.
He did say that, man.
He did say it. Well, he said that and something else, but I will just leave it at that. He's not a good coach.
I'm concerned that he didn't have to get some medical attention after he pounded the desk. That didn't sound like a very giving desk. Like he might have got the worst out of that, but he really said it.
He got more riled up in the presser than he did in the game
on the sideline. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, if he had that emotion on the sideline, maybe they would have. Look, they had a chance to win it. Yeah. They just didn't close. They need that eye of the tiger, and they've lost it. They just don't seem to have that killer instinct that they used to have. And I mean, I enjoyed the game. It was really good. I was more impressed with USC. I really didn't expect them to play that well. I didn't really know what to expect from them, but I think USC, well, that defense, I don't know. They both.
I I think LSU's defense, that's what I was looking for. I think it was improved. I think USC and LSU have a lot to talk about as far as improvements. I now will tell you that USC it can now compete in the Big Ten. I was concerned about if they could compete. I think they can now compete.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. But I think LSU still has to wonder, when you go up, I don't play, but when you go up against Alabama and you go up against Ole Miss and some of these teams that throw the ball 50, 60 times a game, and that secondary is better, but it's still not good, in my opinion. It was better. But you're going to honestly see against a really good quarterback and really good balance, which I think USC had pretty good balance as well. I was impressed by USC. I was a little bit almost flabbergasted. I was like, is this team real? Like, this does not look like the USC
not what we
team.
were expecting at all.
No. I was not. That was a very well-coached Lincoln Riley team. Obviously, the off-season acquisitions, the moves in the defensive side of the ball, really great moves. I don't know a lot about USC as far as coaches. I agree. 100% agree. I thought both teams were different than last year.
You remember, I saw Bear Alexander one time, and I'm sure he was in more than once, but he didn't play much. And I went back and looked up something. The coach had made statements about it, and apparently he was injured in the spring and part of the summer. And was it last year? And in the spring he was injured, and he's come back, and he was talking about his maturity. And they brought somebody in the portal that's playing in front of him.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know. And they didn't mention his name at all on the announcer. So interesting.
You gotta wonder too, Bear threatened to kind of leave again type thing. And I think these NIL guys that are, they got their last glimmer of hope left and go, look, I played some decent snaps last year. Let me just try to get a little bit more money out of somebody out there. And he realized that the market wasn't that hot for him, and he stayed at USC. And teams don't forget that, man. Really, they don't.
That probably has a lot to do with that article Riley was basically saying the maturity issues.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
he's got so much potential. You kind of hope the guy will get coached up and then make it to the next level. But
yeah,
we'll see.
I think what you got to see for him from this standpoint now is he's got to get with a team he's got to show he can play as a part of a team and stop being Bear Alexander. He's got to be he's got to show that. I think this is a bad look for NFL scouts. He needs to get with a team that can rejuvenate him and teach him how to play. And if Kirby can't do that, I don't know who can. Me personally,
I think Kirby invited him to leave because he was toxic to the locker room.
I agree. That's a great way to put it. Invited him to leave. I could totally agree with you on that one. But as far as they're concerned, like I said, I was shocked by USC. I think that the secondary was improved. That's what I wanted to see, was the secondary improved. I don't think this was a great USC passing offense. I think this was an improved passing offense, but we'll see how it pans out in the Big Ten, because I could go all day. I don't think the Big Ten was very impressive at all on Saturday, but that's a whole other show.
I tell you what, that number one they had, he was fun to watch.
Yeah, Quinshon Judkins came to us from Ole Miss. Now, I think he looked really good, but I don't think Howard looked that great. I think the defense looked good, but I don't think Howard looked that great for Oklahoma State, and that's scary because the meat of their schedule, it gets going quick. The unfortunate thing this year is quality games happen very quick unless you're Ole Miss or Texas. Right. So, I don't know. Texas plays Michigan, but that's not the Michigan team I've seen.
How many games do you think LSU will drop going forward? 2 or 3 more?
I don't think they can beat Alabama. I don't think they can beat Ole Miss. They're going to have a hard time beating Oklahoma.
That's what I think. I think they're going to lose 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, there's 2 more definitely. And the fourth could be, it could be Oklahoma. South Carolina. Man, Old Dominion, man, home game for South Carolina. Beamer's, he's hyped up. South Carolina's going to come in, and they need to just look good against Old Dominion. They need to put 3, 4, 5 touchdowns on the board, get off the field and rest Instead, they get to play Kentucky this week after Kentucky was going to be rested regardless, whether it was lightning storm or half their starters taken off the second half. But Beamer and the boys had to have the starters in there to try to win the game. He's definitely on our mailbag question for tonight, so I don't want to give too much away. But what did you think of it? Did you watch South Carolina? I watched highlights.
I missed it. I didn't even see the highlights, but I did hear the discussion.
Yeah,
I was surprised. I mean,
23-19. They needed a fourth quarter drive to beat Old Dominion. Old Dominion is not going to win many games this year, Richman, and so
neither is South Carolina.
It's not looking good in South Carolina. I definitely, I would tell you that we're going to talk about it here in a minute, but I don't know who goes first, man, Beamer or the next guy, which is Florida. If anybody watched the Florida game, and for all my Florida fans out there, and if you're joining live, whether you're on TikTok, I have some Florida fans on TikTok. You guys ragged me a lot at the beginning of the year, but there's two things that happened on Saturday from Florida. One, Florida had a hard time playing well, and Billy Napier had a hard time opening a water bottle in his press conference. So it's just, man, Florida, man, I don't know, man. A lot of people are down on Florida, man. They're like, number one, can they beat Samford this coming up week? Like, I don't know. Like, I really don't. That might be grasping for straws, but the offense was horrible. The defense was horrible. And special teams, I mean, they did a lot of it, but they didn't have to really. I mean, there wasn't nothing that big happened, so maybe special teams was the bright spot. I don't know. But the offense was terrible, and DJ Lagway came in because Mertz went into concussion protocol. But this Florida team, man, did you watch the game, Richman?
Yeah, I watched it until I couldn't watch it. It was bad, man. Dude. I just have to say, I enjoyed it. I loved it. Florida's my number one. I hate them.
I tried, man. I picked them because I'm thinking to myself, man, Napier, they got to play. They got to play this game, man. There are not a lot of W's.
I picked them too, didn't I? And I mean, there's been a good bit of hype about their recruiting, and they were going to be a little bit better this year. And I think they've digressed.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, now it all fits together because Napier was just really like the entire fall. And I mentioned this on previous shows where I said he has his same presser every single week. He's like, we did some things better today. We did some things better today. We did. And it's just like, I don't know. I did not see one, that running back, the running back. Tell me his name. Is it McClendon or I don't know. He's fast, dude. I don't know. McPherson, maybe. I don't know. He's fast, dude. Don't get me wrong. But I would say for your job, maybe Mertz plays because you need a job and Mertz gives you the best chance to win. But go ahead and get DJ Lagway in there, man. Don't lose him. Don't lose him to NIL. Get him in there. Let him get invested because it's over. I mean, the way you looked and the way you played and the score. And the Miami fans, believe me now, I mentioned this last week. I am not a Miami. Like, I don't like Miami. I don't like anything about them. I think they're classless. I think their fans are classless. It was a huge, big classless act on both sides between the fans from Florida yelling, we hate Napier, next head coach, to Miami staying in the stands. And I don't know if you saw some of the Miami players go over to the Florida recruits and go come to Miami. I mean, I guess you can do that. I mean, we're in that era, but both teams are extremely classless. At least I would say Miami's been 10 times more classless in the past 10 years than Florida has. But the fans at Florida were terrible because at the end of the day, man, like, it's X's and O's, and he's failing at X's and O's. But let's not let his kids and his wife see that, right? This guy's a human being. Everybody saw it loud and clear. This team's not good. Billy's days are numbered. I just don't know if Billy Napier or Shane Beamer, I don't know which one's going to go quicker. Like,
Napier will be gone by midseason.
Does he make it to midseason?
Look, the call-in, I don't know what call-in show I was listening to, but the guy called in and he's like, hey, we need to fire him today and get Spurrier in as an interim coach until we can find somebody.
Dude,
And
I've
I
heard
was
everybody.
laughing
I've heard
so hard.
Spurrier. I've heard Urban Meyer come back. I've heard I even heard Jimbo Fisher to Florida. And it's like, I don't know if you want that. I mean, you're not there yet, right? I would tell you though, something that's very intriguing is a guy that's recruiting that area right now, and a guy who's having success, and could possibly
Don't say it.
whip Florida so bad in a few weeks that they should give him the job. They should swap shirts that day, and that's Gus Malzahn.
Oh,
Like at UCF. UCF is right next door, and he's having success, and he is winning. And Gus Malzahn could do some. I mean, I just feel like Gus Malzahn does a lot of stuff everywhere he goes.
I thought you were going to say Schumann.
No, not Schumann. I can't talk about Schumann because I don't want to curse anything. But I will tell you that T-Rob's there for a reason. I think Schumann's days are numbered. He's a great coach, and that's a whole other show. But no, I think Gus Malzahn would fit in perfect there. He already recruits that area.
I agree. Yeah.
And he's going to get a tryout. He's going to get a tryout in a few weeks.
I had this branded in my brain. Bear Bryant said, "Lord help us if Florida ever gets a good coach."
Exactly.
I've only had 2 in my lifetime, and I don't want them to have any more.
Exactly. But how can you can't survive in the first 5 weeks. You can't survive losing to Miami and UCF, and then you got to play Florida State later on. I mean, you can't survive losing to 2 out of 3 of your rivals in 5 games. Not to mention, if you don't have a good showing against Samford, that's going to be the key. People are like, you don't think he gets fired?
Come on, they got to stomp Samford. Come on.
I hope. The spread was 2.5 to Florida against Miami, and they lost by 3 touchdowns. Florida's in bad shape, man. I mean, I watched that SEC podcast we did a show on it with Cousin Shane and Michael Bratton. Michael Bratton, his power ranking Saturday night at about 11 o'clock during the lightning delay, it had Florida at 16. He's so done with Florida that he doesn't think they can beat anybody in the SEC on a neutral field. On a neutral field, he doesn't feel like they can beat anybody. And no offense, you don't have we're going to talk about this in a minute. You don't have your Vanderbilts anymore, man. I mean, is Vandy like?
Who's Vandy going to upset? That's what I want to know.
I feel upset really
somebody.
Bad, man.
They're going to beat somebody in the SEC.
Uh-huh. I feel really bad for Vandy.
They play in South Carolina because they'll probably beat them.
Yeah, I feel really bad. We didn't give Vandy near the coverage they needed over the Clark Lake. Congratulations on almost gave it away, but on a great win for Vanderbilt and against the Virginia Tech team that's why I know Clemson's going to be fine in the ACC, because Virginia Tech was returning 21 starters. I mean, dude, you were returning 21 starters, the coaching staff, the fans, everything, and you were in Vanderbilt, which I will say something's in the water at Vanderbilt, because we still have the scoreboard being hung up by a scaffold.
Dude, that quarterback's a catalyst. It's just he's a Johnny
Diego
football.
Pavia.
There's something about some players that's just magic. And I think that kid's got it. Yeah, I agree.
I thought he was good.
He'll make everybody on that team play over their head for the rest of the season, and they're going to upset somebody.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see who it might be. Let's see if you agree with these power rankings. I'm going to fly through them 16-1. Let's see if you have some people in a different spot, Richman, and then we're going to head to a couple mailbag questions. We're going to pick these games, and we're gonna get this Labor Day in the books so we can watch a little FSU tonight. I don't know, man, and I hope FSU. This is O'Brien, man. Bill O'Brien against FSU. We're gonna see what he's made of, man. I don't know. Coming in 16, I am totally drinking the water. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid and drinking the water. I got Florida at 16. I don't think Florida can beat anybody on this slate right here in a neutral field, and that's what I'm banking it off of. Power rankings are team versus team on a neutral field, not the Swamp, not Athens, middle of Birmingham at the whatever bowl, I got 15. I got South Carolina. I thought they were the 15th worst looking team in the SEC on Saturday. I think between Beamer and Napier, They're going to fight it out and duke it out to see who can be coaching the shortest amount of time this season. I think both of them have moved. I think they have culminated and they've pushed my man Sam Pittman aside and said we are the front runners of the SEC when it comes to hot seat. And then 14, I got Mississippi State. Encouraging win this past Saturday. They get a little bit of a test this Saturday at Arizona State, but I liked what I saw. But the thing I liked about Jeff Lebby is you look at last year and I think they put up like 57 points and only allowed like 3 or 10. Go ahead.
What's the line this weekend? Do you know? Are they picked
for Mississippi State? I think they are 10. Let me see real quick. It's a good question. I got them in here though. They are giving Arizona State 6.5. But it's at home. I think that's an at-home pick. So it's out in Arizona. That might be the gist there. But I got them at 15, 14. You agree with anything with 16, 15, and 14? Disagree?
Yeah, I'm right there.
I don't like Florida, man. I don't know if they can win one in the SEC right now. 13. I thought Texas A&M slides here, and I'll tell you why. Texas A&M, I thought the defense played pretty decent. They made Notre Dame kind of work for a lot of things, but I thought the offense looked very confused on Saturday night against Notre Dame team that I didn't think had a great defense. I just think Connor Wakeman looked so baffled every series. So many 3-and-outs. I mean, you looked over and you panned over to Elko sometimes, and you could see him saying, "Run the damn ball." Like he was just so content with like going, at this point, let's just see if we can run the ball right. So I think the offense was, I mean, you go from a year of, in my opinion, a really good offense last year at Texas A&M, and it was very confusing looking this past week. Texas A&M 13. I dropped LSU down here in the 12th. I just think that secondary is going to continue. They didn't get a win, so I don't think they deserve to be above a couple of these teams. But on neutral site, do I think they can beat Vandy, maybe, Auburn? Maybe. But as far as Saturday, that's all I can go off of. Power Ranking says that on a neutral site, what you brought to the table this past, I didn't think they could stop the pass very well. I thought USC ran the ball, and USC is not notorious for running the football. And I thought LSU's offense was good at times, but it wasn't the dominant LSU running attack I've seen, especially with one of the top 2 to 3 offensive lines in the SEC coming back this year. I thought LSU's line is really good, and I thought they couldn't get the run going. And then at 11, I have Auburn. It's tough to say what I could see against Auburn. I know you watched the game. I'll let you chime in on this, but Alabama A&M. I mean, man, the one thing I will tell you is they Cam Coleman looked like he looked like Megatron 3.0 against Alabama and A&M. Peyton Thorne looked like Joe Montana, but everybody might against Alabama and A&M. The good news is the defense looked good against Alabama and A&M. And Auburn looked like it's a different offense now. They were throwing the ball around everywhere. They were running the ball. It wasn't let's figure out how we can't screw the game up so that we can try and actually win the game. Did you see this game? What did you think about that game?
No, I didn't see it. I couldn't find it.
That's right. It wasn't televised. It was on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, I don't have ESPN Plus in that package I've got.
I mean, it was Alabama and A&M. And if that's the offense they're going to bring, I'm encouraged. But that just shows they're going to give a lot of trust to Peyton Thorne and these receivers. I thought Jaquez Hunter looked great, but then again, I saw Alabama A&M's defensive line, and they're possibly some schools' secondaries. They were very small, not very athletic, and it was just not Auburn's got 6 home games. They got Cal this week, so I don't know when they'll get tested. We'll see if Cal will test them this week, but they're at home. They're in another good position. I think Auburn's in a good position to win a lot of games before they actually get in the
I think that'll be a good game or interesting game playing Cal.
I agree. Totally. 10, I got my boys from Vandy rolling in at 10, giving them some props. Diego Pavia. The offense looked different. Looks like it
looked alive.
Yeah, it looks like it played to their strengths. They had a little kind of veer pistol type thing where Pavia can just run the option / pass. And I think Pavia looked good in that offense. Defense looked good. apparently Clark Lay's got some things going on. He's doing some things. Clark Lay and Kirby are really good friends.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of skull type sessions, really the team getting to know each other, trying to build that, camaraderie there and build that. They let a lot of people go, and they just they just said, to heck with it. I mean, we understand we're going to be hurting, but we want to get players that want to play for us,
Right. Yeah.
It showed in the first game. I thought they had to push people away, the student section away. So
I heard
students
that.
were coming in.
That's fascinating.
It is. It's great. So I don't know.
Maybe they'll go ahead and finish up their stadium this year so they can pack it out next year.
I mean, for real, right? I mean, imagine if that stadium would have been done, man. 1,000 more students could have actually used the money that they deserve, in their tuition. I don't know. I don't know. Never have I heard it taken 2 years to just get the scoreboard hung. And I don't know who won that bid, man, but I'm not in construction, but I don't know. I call bullcrap. But Vanderbilt, you get my 10th vote this week. Arkansas comes in at night. Now, Arkansas could have gone anywhere from 6 to 9. I thought Arkansas looks like a different Arkansas, man. They played earlier in the week.
I saw some of that. That was
Taylon Green, man, is everywhere. Not Rocket Sanders, because he plays for South Carolina now. But the run game was incredible. I thought obviously the defense, they didn't allow any points. I thought the best thing that could happen for them was, regardless if it was an inferior opponent, the offense looked dangerous. If there was actually players in front of them that knew how to guard that playbook, it still would have been hard. I think Taylon Green is an incredible athlete. He's gonna really stretch them this year. I'm starting to look at Arkansas to get a couple more wins that I didn't have them down for earlier in the year. I liked what Arkansas looked like. Let's just put it this way. It's 1 week where Sam Pittman can go out to a restaurant and not possibly get his house or car egged and get booed. He can go to dinner this week, and not have to worry about it. Take his wife out on a nice dinner. You get to not have the worst comments from the SEC this week, because Billy Napier and Shane Beamer, they have that spot this week.
Hey, I'm pulling for Arkansas, man. I like them.
I like Pittman. I like Arkansas. I think one of the best, Bobby Petrino, at this offensive coordinator hire of Bobby Petrino has so far so good. Obviously, we're gonna pick him in a game here in a minute, but and then 8, they got Oklahoma. I don't really know what to think of Oklahoma. Once again, played an opponent that was not that great. I liked what I saw on the offense. The defense, was it improved? I don't really know. I know the offensive line, though, still showed signs of it needs a little help. But as far as athletes in the defense, I mean, Brent Venable's defense, it looked good. But I still don't know if this offense can score against a team that has, a quality defense and a quality defensive line and linebackers, because the offensive line looked a little bit, the same in the past, the suspect. 7, I only have 3 quarters, 2.5 to work with, but I got Kentucky at 7. I think you said something about this. I like what Vandegrift brought. I thought they brought a lot of team speed. Look at Barry Davis. He looked really good out there. Thought their run game looked good. Their offensive line looked really good. Really good. And that is something that in the past Kentucky has had on paper, but they have not figured out how to get them to actually block. Right. If this game says anything, it showed that. And the defense, I mean, you're playing Southern Miss. I don't really know what you get out of that, but you're playing Southern Miss. But I thought Kentucky, for the 2 quarters that I saw them, I thought they looked pretty good. We'll get to see what they really look like in a couple weeks when we go down to up to Kroger Stadium, and we get to play these Wildcats in our first SEC game of the year. Missouri, still don't know a lot about Missouri at 6, but I know they played a pretty good. Brady Cook, kind of got out of the the stables a little bit slow, but their Thursday night game, Murray State, they did what they were supposed to do. I really have a here nor there. Did Luther Burden look good? Did Weiss look good? I couldn't tell you, because I couldn't say what the defense was going to look like, because Murray State didn't pose much of a threat on offense. So.
I made a comment about them running up the score with 2 minutes left, and their fans jumped all over me and said they were playing their 3rd and 4th string. I didn't even know they had a 4th string, but I was like, okay, was that your 3rd string kicker? I mean, because you're kicking a field goal with 2 minutes, and
I think you texted me that. Drinkwitz, man, I've never been a fan of Eli. He's a character to me, man. He kind of just reminds me of that. I don't even know. It's hard to I can't describe Eli Drinkwitz. He's a weird character to me, man.
I
Number
mean,
5. Go ahead.
running up the score, everybody does it nowadays, but us old guys kind of are like, hey, take a knee.
Well, somebody's making the bets, right, on FanDuel for the spread. So, I mean, I don't know, man. Drinkwitz might need to cover the spread somewhere. Maybe his son was needing,
His
I don't know,
nephews,
man.
yeah.
Somebody needed a FanDuel money. I don't know. 5th. So this might be a controversial pick because I have a team above them that I didn't have above them. I got Alabama 5th. I saw him play Western Kentucky. I look at Western Kentucky and I look at Chattanooga, which Tennessee played. Chattanooga's actually done really well in Division II. They've had a lot of success the past few years. Western Kentucky, man, TJ Finley, guy that we know really well, played at LSU, played a little bit at Auburn. They throw the ball a lot at Western Kentucky, and he threw the ball a lot on Saturday, but he threw it a lot of times to the wrong receiver. Matter of fact, he threw it to the wrong team 3 times. He threw it to the wrong player and the wrong team, and he threw it to the same player from the wrong team twice. So I think Western Kentucky helped Alabama a lot, but I'll tell you what, I will tell you that out of the 42 some odd points they scored, TJ Finley set them up for success with 3 of them. So I don't really know what to think of Alabama's offense. I heard a lot of people say that Alabama they looked good. They looked better than advertised. They looked like they looked like a team that could go farther with Kalen DeBoer than they could with Nick Saban this year. And I was like, I don't know, man. That's weird. Now, granted, that was Michael Bratton from that SEC podcast. Now, he's been on Alabama all year. So I'll give him that for time's sake, but I don't think Milroe and Alabama look that great on offense. I think they have offensive line. They have untapped offensive line issues. The defense looked really, really good. I think this defense under Kane Womack is good. I think it's disciplined. I think the defense is what you got to worry about more than the offense for Alabama. But Ryan Williams also looked good as well. He made some good catches, the freshman from Alabama. But I got them at 5th because I got Tennessee at 4th. Nico Imalava, they look.
He looks good.
He looks good, man. Like, granted you're going against Chattanooga, but there was not a throw that I didn't see him throw that wasn't on point. I thought the run game was good. And we all know what Heupel can do with a strong quarterback. And I would say a neutral field right now after those 2 performances. I think Tennessee, and Tennessee's got them this year in Neyland. I think Tennessee would not only beat Alabama right now at Neyland, but I definitely think they would beat them in a neutral side as well. So I got them 4th, and then to round it out, I got Texas at 3rd. Texas did what Texas did. Arch Manning was in there the 3rd quarter. Ole Miss, man, I don't know if you saw that score, but I think Lane Kiffin. I think Lane Kiffin could have had 1,000 yards total offense in that game if he wanted to. Jackson Dart could have had 800 yards to kick off his Heisman candidacy. They didn't. They scored a lot of points, and then obviously I have Georgia number 1. But I got Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas 1, 2, 3 power rankings. Agree, disagree with that 1, 2, 3. Who would you have different? You like it?
I'm liking it.
I think Georgia obviously played a much better team this week. Showed up on defense. Offense got it together. I think they're the obvious number 1. Let's look at a couple mailbag questions. We won't take all 5 because we want to pick them tonight so we can get off here in about 4 or 5 minutes. But 2 questions we'll take from mailbag. 1, do we think Bobo is still the best play caller for UGA? A lot of fans are talking about, this offense is very, very talented, has a lot of talent. Did he hold them back on Saturday? What do you think, Rich, man? You think he held them back?
Absolutely not. We said earlier that Beck was expecting to see, the press and the pressure, and they didn't do that. And so they came out in a defense that we hadn't looked at all, hadn't practiced for. So they probed the middle, they probed the perimeters, they threw the short passes. The only thing that I'm curious about is to be, when they're come out in the cover 3, the best way to attack that's by flooding the zone.
Right.
And we did that all second half. I don't know why they didn't think about doing that in the first half, but it completely opened everything up when they started flooding the zones with receivers. and it was. But I mean, we had to. He did what you do. I mean, you probe the middle, you check the sides, and then they didn't throw the long ball. But I mean, probably because those guys were playing so deep,
Yeah.
But the second half they made the adjustments, and it was just they put on an exhibition. Who could have called a better game than Bobo in the second half? I don't know. I don't think anybody.
Yeah, I agree. He even went back to that play that Arian got hit on with the offensive pass interference, and it ended up being the one that broke it out for about 60 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked like clockwork the first time, but Smith he didn't even realize it, but he kind of bumped him. And then, he said, I'm going to wait 3 or 4 plays. I think it was next possession. They went down to the same play, and it was obviously wide open both times. But I agree. I think Bobo, I don't think you saw what we call third and Bobo. I think you saw deliberate runs. I think we tried to soften up the middle. I think we realized Frazier was hot, and we got him some quick, easy runs. I don't like one of the worst. I mean, when you look at what it did when Frazier was in there, he busted that 40-yard run. I don't like that little quick pitch left. I think there's a lot of things that can go wrong with that. Obviously, it made us look great the second half, but it made us look foolish the first half when, Robinson stalled the drive when he took it backwards for about 15 yards on that same pitch. But I don't think there was many calls I look at back and go, man, okay, I will tell you one scenario. First half, when we kicked the second field goal, we ran play action. We threw it across the middle as the first play and missed it. And then we ran delp. And then 3rd and 4, we came up short. I think that first play was a little soon. I think we were really methodical on that drive. We were 15 plays. We should have ran that play to delp first. Second, probably ran the ball, see if we could have got it then. And I think we could have punched it in and probably been up 10-0 in the first half. But it didn't come back to hurt us. But I do think in the first half we got a little bit antsy and kind of wanted to put a touchdown on the board before halftime. And so that kind of hurt us, that play calling. I thought delp looked good. We didn't see that. We didn't see that big attack on offense from Urasek and delp, but they were there when they were needed. And I will tell you, if you go back and watch the tape, Urasek, he did a lot of the dirty work on Saturday. A lot of blocks. He opened up a lot of things on that left side and that right side when you saw Frazier coming around that corner. He had a great job blocking. Cash Jones had a big block. I think Kirby mentioned it. So all in all, I think I agree with you. The play calling Saturday was pretty spot on. I liked what Bobo did. The last thing I'll say before we pick him tonight is, and we just talked about this, what's your take on this? How long before Florida and South Carolina pull the plug on Beamer and Napier? Like, who wins? Who goes first, Richman?
Oh, I think Napier's gone first, but I think South Carolina, I don't think they're going to realize it until later in the season.
Maybe. And I think South Carolina is in a different spot. I think it's not is South Carolina a prominent job? Yeah. I mean, people want to work at South Carolina. Don't get me wrong. But as far as Florida, I think Florida can't let this go too long because they got players that they put some money out there. DJ Lagway, they got some players that they were able to bring in. They got some players sitting there already that were signed that could be free game if they don't let Napier go and get somebody on them real quick. I think it could turn around the class that is actually pretty decent right now for Napier. He's always been known as a good recruiter, and a good motivator, but coaching has not. He just doesn't seem motivated to coach right now.
Tell you what, too, I'd like to see a documentary on coaching when everything's imploding. How do you hold it together? How do you sleep at night? How do you, what do you say? That'd be very interesting.
The funny thing is you got 3 coaches from Florida who could all do that docuseries between McElwain and Mullins and Napier. I mean, they could all do it together, man. I mean, that's been Florida's DNA the last 3 years. Florida cannot miss the next coaching pick. They can't. It could be the difference in them becoming, I don't know about a Vanderbilt, but it could be the difference in them becoming a Mississippi State.
But Florida's always been a Mississippi State. They've had 2 periods in their history where they were good. Spurrier and what's his name? The one
Urban Meyer.
Yeah. Meyer. I can't stand him.
I agree, but I think they were just so good during those years. I think they overplay what we've seen in the past, I don't know, 7 or 8. Even Spurrier, and I don't know if that's clickbait or not, but even Spurrier is calling for a change. I don't know why anybody would care about that because, Spurrier's about his picks and his hot-headedness these last 2 years. I don't even know if his golf game's good anymore.
You know what? I wish they'd put Spurrier back in there because I'd love whipping him for a while. We owe him.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
I don't think he could turn it around in today's world.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Napier's gone quick. I think I think there's some winnable games that should happen in the next 2-3 weeks, and before he even gets into the meat of the schedule, I definitely will tell you he doesn't make it past halfway in the year. But I do call I'm going to call week 4 or 5. If he makes it to Florida, Tennessee, that'll be a miracle. And I think Tennessee is finally going to just I think Tennessee's going to put something on them that I don't even know if Armor All can take off. So I think Napier's definitely out, but it's going to be close, man. Beamer's close too. You can't play Old Dominion like that and expect to have any fans looking at you going, we're getting better. Hey, let's pick these games real quick. We got minimal time. I know we're literally about to start this game, so let's pick it first. Tonight, Florida State, Boston College. Where are they playing at tonight? Let's figure it out. We're gonna figure it out right now. Week 1, Florida State, Boston College. It is in Tallahassee. Who you got? I got. I'm starting to lose my voice. I got FSU 16.5 in this game. Who you got?
I'm taking the Noles.
Noles on a comeback. Man, do they cover? Did I bet on this game? I should have. I don't know if Florida State can cover though.
I don't think they cover, but I'll take.
Can I get my bet in before the game's up? Anyways, I don't think they cover on that. But I got Florida State. I think Uyunglele and Florida State will turn it around and get their win tonight. They need it. I don't think they can afford a loss tonight against. I don't think they can afford a loss tonight. With that being said,
is Boston even ranked? Boston's not even in the top 20, are they?
No, they are not. Haven't even played a game. This is Boston College's first game of the year, so they're 0-0. So we'll see. We'll see how this all pans out. I got Florida State as well. I don't think they cover, but I got Florida State in this one. Let's look at Vanderbilt, Alcorn State. Who you got? Vanderbilt, Alcorn State.
Vandy.
I got Vandy. I got Vandy big. They get the win that they were supposed to get this week that they weren't supposed to get from this past week. So I got Vandy big as well. Florida, Samford in the swamp. Yikes. Who you got in this one?
I'll take Florida, but they won't cover.
Florida is they don't have a spread up yet. They don't have a spread up yet. That's crazy. 7:00 game in the swamp. That's the only reason I think they get Samford. That's a night game. Samford, the swamp. Florida wins, not by much. I don't even know, man. Can Napier get fired on a win? I mean, maybe. Who knows? I got Florida in this one, but I don't want to pick them. I told you they wouldn't win any more SEC games possibly, but they'll win another one of these. Alabama, South Florida, intriguing game. Very intriguing game. Alabama, South Florida. This was a close game. This is the game last year that Milroe was benched. Who you got?
I'm going to take Alabama, but just because they're Alabama.
Alabama at home, Kalen DeBoer, South Florida. This is a different South Florida team. It's his second year under the offensive coordinator from Tennessee. I think his name is Alex Groschel. If I'm butchering his name, I apologize. But I think this is closer than expected because I think that this offense for USF is going to be better, obviously than Western Kentucky, and we're going to see if Alabama can actually get their offense going for more than just some Jalen Milroe runs. So I got Alabama as well. I don't think they cover. But I definitely think it's a closer game than normal. Auburn, California, Cal. It's at Auburn. It's another night game in Auburn. Who you got in this one?
I'm taking Auburn.
I got Auburn. I'm trying to look right now, see what the spread is. I think right now it's 14.5. I saw it 13.5 at once. It bounced to 14.5. That's 13.5 still. I'm sorry. This is at Auburn. Cal wins last week. I got Auburn in this one. They're supposed to win it. They need to win it. But I want to see if this offense is as real as it was against an Alabama and A&M.
Right.
This is a much better defense, much better team. I think it'll be a lot more improved than Alabama and A&M, and so it'll be a test for them. But on the Plains, this is a 3:30 game on ESPN2. So I got Auburn as well. Oklahoma goes to Houston. Who you got? Oklahoma and Houston.
Well, I got Oklahoma, but I don't think they'll cover.
Oklahoma Houston is a very intriguing game. I feel like a new Houston coach used to be the coach at Tulane last year, and this is a little different game for me. I don't think they cover. This is a 29.5 point favorite at home for Oklahoma. I don't think they do that to Houston, so I'm going to agree with you on that one. I got Oklahoma, but I got them probably more like maybe a 10 points, maybe a 2 touchdown favor. Mississippi State, Arizona State. This is a late kick, late kick. 10:30 in Arizona. Who you got right now? It's Arizona State. They're giving them 6.5.
I'm taking Arizona State.
It's a tough one. This is a tough one. I don't know, man.
I'm just taking State because they're at home.
Yeah, there's still SEC presence though, right? This is a Jeff Lebby offense. I think too many injuries though. If Kelly Akari is playing for Mississippi State, I think some of these injuries were not happening with Mississippi State.
Yeah, and
I can say the same thing.
Year 2 or 3.
2 or 3 injuries. Yeah, so I agree with you. I think Arizona State wins. I think it's close because I think that Mississippi State's going to throw the ball obviously a lot. Improved defense for Mississippi State as well. So I got Mississippi State as well. Let's hop over to the ACC. I like this game. Fran Brown, Syracuse at Georgia Tech. Who do you like in this game?
I'm going to go for Tech. See if they can do it again. And Syracuse, I think, is going to be stronger this year, but so is Tech. So I'm gonna go with Tech.
I like Tech. I like what I've seen from Tech. Obviously they get the win against Georgia State. They get the opening win against Florida State. I think, in my opinion, Uyunglele is not as good of a quarterback as this Syracuse kid by way of Ohio State. I think I'm rooting for Fran Brown. The spread is thin, man. They're in Syracuse, Carrier Dome environment. It's a 12 o'clock noon game. Tech's had some, very weird time frame gaps of playing games. It's in Syracuse. I'm taking Syracuse. I'm taking Fran Brown to get his first. I'm taking Kyle McCord from the Ohio State University to come in here, who threw for over 350 yards last week for Syracuse. Give me Fran Brown. Give me any good reason to pick against Tech, to be honest with you. Let's hop over to the Big 12. Kansas, Illinois. We get the first chance to see Kansas. Devin Neal, Jaden Daniels. What do you know about Kansas? Who do you got on this one?
Man, I don't know much about Kansas, but I'll take Kansas over Illinois.
I'll give you a little thing. Kansas this year, immense team speed on offense. Jaden Daniels is elusive. Devin Neal is an incredible back out of Kansas. I think they have a really, really good offense this year. It's can the defense. I think the Big 12 is very deep this year. Let me make sure I clarify. Not that I think they're going to have a lot of people come out for the playoff. I just think there's a lot of teams in there that are very similar, and this is a deep league. I think there's going to be no standout. I think they're going to beat each other up a lot. So I'll take Kansas as well. I like their offense. Another one, Big 12. I'm really interested in seeing this. Nebraska, Colorado, Dylan Raiola, which if you guys remember from he committed to Georgia, and then he decommitted, and he went to play for his dad's school in Nebraska. Who do you got? I don't want to pick either of these teams, but go ahead. Who you got?
Oh, I'm taking Nebraska.
I think Nebraska wins this game. I think Colorado looked about as bad as you could look against a North Dakota State team who's don't get me wrong, they're good, but you're gonna have to play much better against a Nebraska team that has a much better offense, in my opinion. Dylan Raiola looked like a Patty Mahomes this past week. He's got his number, he's got his swag, he's got his little sidearm thing going on. Give me Nebraska over Colorado as well.
He looked really
South,
good.
yeah, I think it looks great. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'm kind of bummed we missed on him. I don't think we missed on him. I just think that I think he saw the lining, and he wants to.
I
He
think he
wanted to
walked
play.
into a good situation out there. So, I mean,
Yeah. And it lines up with the fact that his dad played there, and he wants to make a mark in Nebraska. I get it.
yep.
South Carolina, Kentucky. This is at Kroger Field. Beamer coming off of the Old Dominion scrape by. Kentucky's rested because they didn't even play but for 2 quarters this past week. Who you got?
I got Kentucky.
You got Kentucky big, or you just got Kentucky?
I got Kentucky big.
Yeah. So they're giving Kentucky 10. I'm thinking this is a 3-score game right here. I'm thinking the water starts to boil this week on Beamer a little bit. This is going to be a big win for Kentucky. It's going to set them up off the SEC really well. Number 4 Texas is number 9 Michigan. This is in the big house, man. I watched Michigan a little bit. I wasn't really impressed this past weekend. I didn't really know what to think of Texas. Texas did their job this week against a team that was obviously inferior to them. Who do you got? Texas, Michigan at the big house.
Texas. It's their time to shine. So,
yeah, I think Quinn Ewers goes. I think there's more the experience at quarterback. To me, is going to be the difference maker. You got Quinn Ewers. You got a guy running an offense. This team's a little bit more. Just watch out, because if Texas can't get the running game going, Michigan still has a really good defense, I think. I just don't know if the offense can get it together enough to score enough points. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Snow Moore, I think he gets it together at some point. He needs to, or this could be Ryan Day's year that they finally beat Michigan. But this definitely wasn't. This definitely wasn't a team that was the Michigan team from the past 2 or 3 years. And they've lost a lot. Don't get me wrong, but this wasn't the same Michigan team. I got Texas as well. I don't got them big, but I think Texas wins this pretty easily. I don't think it was ever a big thing. Tennessee goes into NC State. I like NC State this year, but I like what I've seen from Tennessee. Remember, I got Tennessee 4th in the power rankings. Who do you have in this game?
Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee way too much for NC State. The only thing I would ponder on is it's one of those games where NC State, they just always find a way to figure some things out. You can never count out. I'm looking it up right now because I want to see his name.
If they get in a shootout, if Tennessee's defense doesn't show up and they get in a shootout, North Carolina can make it interesting, because that, like you said, they always find a way.
Yeah. Big thing is this is a neutral site game. This is a night game. Tennessee got a lot to lose. NC State. Garrett McCall, if you guys remember him from Coastal Carolina last year, comes in, threw for 318 yards last week, 3 TDs. I look for the quarterback battle to be huge. I think whoever can get their offenses off quicker, I think wins this game. I think Tennessee wins ultimately, but I don't think this is going to be a test for Tennessee. And then obviously Georgia Tennessee Tech game, we're going to pick it last. I'll go ahead and I think this is a win for Georgia. Very biggest thing with this is we just want to make sure we get some tape things right from last week. I think we want to make sure and sew up some of those things that we can work on from some of the footage. We think we need to get healthy this week. I don't think you see a lot of the starters for a lot of this game, but I'm hoping that. What I don't want to happen is a flat team to come out and us have to be a South Carolina and they were Old Dominion. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I got Georgia big in this one. I don't even know if Old Dominion score. I don't even know if Tennessee Tech scores. What about you?
Yeah, the question is, you think Kirby's going to try to go hang 70 on somebody to compete with all of the scrimmages from last week, or you think he's going to put the second and third string in and just run the ball?
I think inadvertently Tennessee Tech is not going to be good enough to. Here's the thing: Tennessee Tech is going to have to stop the run. We're going to throw the ball, but not for long. But they're going to have to stop the run, and they throw the ball a lot. And if they can't get anything throwing the ball, that means we're going to possess the ball a lot. So obviously they're not going to score much.
Yeah.
But I don't think Kirby. if there's any Vegas points out there, if they're saying 70, I would say I wouldn't go there. I mean,
I don't think Kirby would do that.
I would say look more in the area of 40, 50, somewhere
Yeah.
in there, and we run the ball. Now, if they can't stop the run, Kirby can't help that. And we're deep. We're deep. Really good offensive line. So I can see it getting in the 60s if they can't stop the run. So we'll see. My thing is I just hope we don't come out flat. I just hope that we, I hope we're up. We don't have many of these games this year. You may, I know Kirby's not going to advertise this, but you may see a little Kentucky install this week. Who knows? I think they'll be solely looking at Tennessee Tech, but I do think you'll see some scout stuff, at least getting ready in those avenues. So we've gone a little bit over. FSU's probably already, I don't know, maybe turn the ball over. Who knows? But final thoughts tonight, Richman?
No, man, I'm ready to go watch some FSU in Boston.
I hear you. Well, here's the thing. This is a huge week as far as the SEC is concerned. You look at a lot of the games. This is probably your final week of the Big Ten SEC, except for if you're Ole Miss or you're Texas after Michigan, because I think Texas has some buys in there a little bit more after this. They got to go to Ann Arbor. I get it, but I think this is the last week you'll see a lot of these teams now having to get into the meat of their schedules. Obviously, Georgia, you look at them going to Kroger Field next week. And then they have a week off, and then they have the big game in Tuscaloosa. So a lot coming down the way. I would tell you that September is going to get boiling very quickly, very, very quickly. So enjoy this week. Enjoy football all over this week. Rich, man, it's always a pleasure, man. Thanks for joining tonight. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for all the commentary. And we're going to get out of here so we can catch this game. But live reactions, try to be right after the game on Saturday. And then look forward to previewing Kentucky and Georgia on next week. For myself and Richman Cohen, man, have a great night, everybody, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.